Hi, my name is Helle. I come from the Norwegian newspaper Dagsavisen. I am wondering, as we strengthen our partnership, why should we trust you? Can you promise that you will try to stop the human rights violations that goes on in your country? And also, will the Prime Minister start taking critical questions from the Indian press at some point in the future? And also, if possible, I would like you to answer straight away.
Okay.
Right now.
No,
Like now.
please. We have a question there.
But I might also have follow-up questions, so it would be
Please.
better if you answer
We
right
have
away and then I can follow up.
You ask why should a country trust India? Please.
What began as a routine diplomatic media briefing in Oslo soon transformed into a tense ideological confrontation between Indian officials and Norwegian journalists during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's ongoing five-nation European tour. The controversy traces back to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's bilateral engagement with Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre in Oslo. After two leaders concluded their joint media statements, Norwegian journalist Helle Lang Svensson from the newspaper Dagsavisen loudly raised a question concerning press freedom in India. However, Prime Minister Modi left the venue without taking any questions from the press. The moment quickly gained traction after Svensson posted about the incident on social media, drawing attention to what she described as an attempt to seek answers on the democracy and media freedom during the high-profile diplomatic visit. Soon after, the Embassy of India in Oslo responded publicly on X, inviting Svensson to attend the official MEA press briefing at the Radisson Blu Plaza Hotel in Oslo and ask her questions there directly. At the briefing, MEA Secretary West, SIBI George, faced a series of pointed questions from Svensson regarding democracy, governance, minority rights and press freedom in India, and the routine diplomatic briefing turned into a heated exchange between the two.
The Norwegian reporter asked a very specific set of questions regarding alleged human rights violations in India and about why Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi does not answer questions from the press in India. Instead of directly addressing those questions, Indian diplomat SIBI George spoke for nearly 20 minutes and wandered across a wide range of unrelated topics, from yoga and India's contributions to civilization, to various claims surrounding COVID-19, including bizarre narratives about cow dung being used as a remedy during the pandemic. He even mentioned how someone allegedly tried to patent such a cow dung cure for COVID. He also referred to the AI Summit in 2026 and spoke about claims made by Galgoshes University regarding a Chinese robot dog being presented as an Indian innovation, along with the so-called Korean drone soccer ball project. Those examples opened up an entirely different discussion about Indian universities, certificate mills, and the declining credibility of certain educational institutions in India. That itself deserves a separate discussion. But returning to the press conference itself, what stood out most was how SIBI George deliberately chose distraction and deviation instead of answering the actual questions posed by the reporter. He avoided the specific issues raised and instead buried them under unrelated talking points. This pattern of evasion is becoming increasingly common, and this particular exchange was peak embarrassment. It feels as though many governments and political establishments have embraced a style of communication based on distraction and deflection, avoiding substance while creating noise. What may once have been called an Indian rope trick of political messaging now resembles a broader culture of distraction politics. Meanwhile, many Indians are being fed highly nationalistic narratives through television channels and media ecosystems that encourage emotional fervor rather than critical thinking. Only those willing to think independently and critically will recognize what is happening beneath the surface. The Norwegian reporter was absolutely justified in both asking those questions and expecting direct answers. I would like to see more Indians challenge the culture of false narratives, exaggerated national pride, and unquestioning propaganda. I say this as someone of Indian origin myself. Democracy is not something that merely exists on paper in a constitution or something to be shouted from rooftops. It must be actively practiced through accountability, transparency, and openness to scrutiny. Personally, I would have liked to dismantle many of SIBI George's claims point by point, using evidence and examples. Unfortunately, much of this discourse is dominated by noise, defensiveness, and people unwilling to listen. For now, my best option is simply to broadcast my opinion publicly. People are free to disagree with me or even contact me directly, but I would ask that disagreements be based on evidence and reason. At the same time, anyone engaging should also be willing to listen to perspectives and facts that challenge their own assumptions.
SIBI George made an ass of himself by going into full defensive mode for Modi, covering up the screw-ups instead of addressing them honestly. But that was the point. He was performing for Modi, the BJP, and the RSS. He knew exactly where his loyalties lay, and more importantly, where his career incentives were. His conduct was transparently self-serving, and that is ultimately all he cares about. Sadly, that kind of Malu opportunism is hardly rare. I would not even bother dismantling all his statements for sport, although I easily could. I already tore apart some of them, and even then, everything I pointed out was grounded in facts. If you have actually watched or listened to the full thing, it is all there on YouTube, and you still believe he made factual, defensible points, then please talk to me. Yes, talk to me.